Looking for a guaranteed way to create content that resonates with your audience? Start a podcast, interview your ideal clients, and let them choose the topic of the interview. Because if your ideal clients care about the topic, there's a good chance the rest of your audience will care about it too. Learn more at sweetfishmedia.com.
You're listening to B2B Growth, a daily podcast for B2B leaders. We've interviewed names you've probably heard before, like Gary Vaynerchuk and Simon Sinek, but you've probably never heard from the majority of our guests. That's because the bulk of our interviews aren't with professional speakers and authors. Most of our guests are in the trenches leading sales and marketing teams. They're implementing strategy. They're experimenting with tactics. They're building the fastest growing B2B companies in the world. My name is James Carberry. I'm the founder of Sweetfish Media, a podcast agency for B2B brands, and I'm also one of the co-hosts of this show. When we're not interviewing sales and marketing leaders, you'll hear stories from behind the scenes of our own business. We'll share the ups and downs of our journey as we attempt to take over the world. Just kidding. Well, maybe. Let's get into the show.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Category Creation series on the B2B Growth Show. I am John Rougeux, your host for today's episode. And joining me today is Kipp Bodnar, the CMO of Hubspot, who's going to talk to us about how category design has impacted HubSpot's dominance in the marketing and sales software space. So, Kipp, I am a huge fan of HubSpot. I've used the platform for several years myself, and I really admire what you guys have done in the marketing space. So it is a real pleasure to have you on the show today.
John, thank you so much for having me. I'm excited. You're letting me do what I love to do best, which is talk about marketing for a few minutes. So it's going to be a lot of fun.
Awesome. Well, hey, before we dive into category creation itself, I was wondering if you could give us a little bit of background on your own career as a marketer. You've accomplished a great deal in a short amount of time, and I'd just love to hear a little bit more about the journey you've been on so we have some more context for how you view the world as a marketer.
Sure. You know, I love marketing. And one of the things I love about marketing is it's one of the most level playing field vocations that exists. You know, you don't have to, go through 7 years of college and pass a bunch of board exams to be a marketer, right? It's as much as fast as you can learn and apply that knowledge, the better you can be as a marketer. And so my career started out in the very early days of marketing, just doing marketing, PR on the agency side of marketing. And it was right before online marketing, websites, and everything really took off. And I saw that the online marketing industry was starting to take off. And I thought, wow, if I could really learn and be a first mover here, I could potentially have some opportunities that I wouldn't otherwise have if I just stayed in kind of the way that everybody else is thinking about doing marketing today. And so I did that. I started a blog. I started speaking at some events, taught myself everything I could learn. I'd interview anybody who would talk to me and learned a bunch of stuff. Eventually met the folks at HubSpot. And that was about 9 years ago, a little over 9 years ago now that I first met the HubSpot team. And then March 2nd will be my 9th year at HubSpot. And so at HubSpot, I spent my almost decade now doing every kind of marketing job you can imagine, from creating content to marketing automation to international and non-English marketing, all of it. Now I get the lucky opportunity to lead the best team of marketers around.
Awesome. So you kind of fortunate in a way that you joined the marketing field at a time, in the early mid 2000s when social media was new, digital marketing was still kind of a nascent thing. And you were able to kind of jump into that field just as it was growing, which is, and you kind of saw that opportunity and really took advantage of that. So I think that's really great.
Yeah, I mean, reminded everybody, first mover advantage matters in marketing. Doesn't matter in everything in life, but man, it matters in marketing.
Absolutely. So that's kind of a good segue to what we're going to talk about today, which is this idea of category design, which has been a principle that has existed for a long time. But I think marketers over the last few years have really started to talk about it more intentionally, especially in the B2B space. And one of the reasons I'm so excited to talk to you today is, HubSpot is one of those classic examples of category creation that people love to talk about. And there was a time not too long ago when inbound marketing was not a thing. And then HubSpot came along, and now it's an entire discipline of marketing. So I know you joined maybe just a year or two after that term was coined, if I'm correct. So I'd love to hear maybe just to kind of start that conversation around category of, what was that like when you joined HubSpot? What was the discussion around inbound at the time?
Yeah, I mean, to back up, a little bit, if you're going to create a category, there has to be a need for it, right? You have to see some change that you've noticed in the world, and you need to be able to provide something different. And so for us, we Brian and Darmesh and Mike and a bunch of the early HubSpotters saw that, right? They saw how people were buying and how they were shopping and interacting with marketing had changed dramatically, and so they started thinking about it in a different way and thought it needed a different term. And when I joined, I think Brian Darmesh published Inbound Marketing book, if I remember correctly, late 2008, early 2009. I joined at the start of 2010. Nobody was really talking about inbound marketing. We had a loyal community of customers and some very few agency partners at the time that were kind of joining us and talking about it with us. But the reality is, a ton of people weren't talking about it. It took us probably 7 years before it was something that people were really consistently talking about and felt like was a consistent term in the industry.
So you guys were talking about this internally, and it took you more than half a decade really before this was a term that was used outside of HubSpot. Is that right?
Yeah, we started using it externally really right before the book got published and everything, because we felt like it was the best description for the work we were doing, how we were doing marketing, the software we were building. But man, it takes a long time to change the hearts and minds of people, turns out.
So was that the goal early on to turn this into an industry term, or was it more that inbound marketing was a convenient way of describing what you do and differentiating yourselves, and it was more by accident or circumstance that it became an industry term?
Well, right. So if you're going to create a category, it by default has to be an industry term. You can't be a category if only one player plays in it, right? So you could have made the choice to say, oh, you could have trademarked inbound marketing and made it a thing that was specific to just our company. And that would have been a different play, and it may have worked in some ways and not in others. But the Brian and Darmesh, their strategy was essentially, no, we want this to be a term that's adopted by everyone, because we just believe that this is fundamentally how marketing has shifted and how people want to be marketed to. And obviously, we want to be a player in that category. We want to be a pioneer in that category, but we want a lot of people to come and join us in that category.
So I would have to imagine that, you mentioned, Mike, Darmesh, Brian talking about inbound marketing early on, but I would have to get at there was a certain level of, I guess you could say, maybe indoctrination or education or evangelism among the team about inbound marketing and what that looked like. I'm curious to hear a little bit more about what that effort looked like internally.
Yeah, if you're going to create a category or start a movement, or go about a major marketing position stance that's going to last years and years, it starts with a few things. One, it starts with a catalyzing event. And for HubSpot, that was Brian and Darmesh publishing the inbound marketing book. And then that was the creation and partnership with some other folks, in what was first the Inbound Marketing Summit, and then years later evolved into our Inbound event, which we still host every fall here in Boston. It's growing. It's an awesome place for the community to get together. And you need that catalyzing event because it allows everybody in your company to understand what the story is. And it helps them understand what it is, how to tell it, both in a succinct fashion and in a more detailed fashion. And, you have this like source of truth that people can look to when they're still learning or have questions or get a question that they're not exactly sure how to answer. And then I think it's the job of everybody leading to work with everybody in the company to say, hey, this is our mission. And sometimes it's easier as a marketer to just talk about or give people what they know, right? Get higher click-through rates, get more people to read your blog article or watch your video, whatever it be, if it's a topic that people know about and are interested in. It's much harder to do all those things when it's a new topic that people are not yet familiar with. and you have to create more compelling stories in that world. And so I think that's what a lot of it was about, is like, how do we tell and create really compelling stories to push the education around the concept of inbound marketing.
Yeah, it's almost not unlike a brand awareness campaign, because it's not like you're selling the features or benefit of a specific product. You're trying to, like you said, kind of change the hearts and minds of people in being aware of a term and then assigning some meaning to that as they see what inbound marketing looks like over time, right?
Yeah, I mean, marketing at its very simplest thing is you're either giving people more of what they know about what they want, or you're asking them to learn and believe something new. And if you're creating a category, you're spending oftentimes as much or more time and effort and sweat and capital getting them to believe something new as you are giving them the thing that you know that they want.
So did you guys tag goals to awareness and adoption of inbound marketing?
I mean, we were a startup just trying to make it, and I wish we would have probably been that thoughtful. We would do some things like we would look at, like, oh, can we move the Google Trends for inbound marketing? And we would think about that type of thing, but we set proxies, like, oh, if we're going to have an event about inbound marketing, the next one's going to be 100% bigger than the last one. And how do we make that happen? And we looked at it more on kind of a project basis or piece of content basis, really.
So you were looking at kind of specific tactics and then trying to understand, okay, what can we do this next time around, this next iteration, to drive that much more awareness and adoption of inbound?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So I'm kind of curious, as a category owner, how does that affect your marketing strategy? Do you feel like, if you look at other players, other competitors of yours, do you feel like your strategy is shaped differently versus someone who's maybe a number 2 or number 3 player in the space?
I don't know the answer to that question, to be honest with you. What I do know is that the best marketing strategy is shaped from a company that has a very clear vision and mission, right? And our mission is, we want to help millions of companies grow better. It's what we want to do. And the vision for this business has always been the same thing, which is, wow, technology changes the way that people shop, buy, consume, interact with businesses. And we want to provide businesses with the tools, the education, and the help to really evolve with their customers. And so when you've got that kind of clarity on vision, I think it allows you to always execute on marketing that's true to that, and subsequently very differentiated, because you have this unique vision in the market that isn't shared by others.
Hmm. Yeah, I love what you said there about mission and vision and the importance of that, because I think that's one of those examples in marketing where it's done kind of lip service. Like a mission is done quickly, it's put on the wall somewhere, but then it's quickly looked over and it's right back to like tactics and how can we get more leads this month? And some of that long-term vision and kind of real purpose in the marketplace is lost, and then people don't really have a reason to kind of get behind you and rally behind your values. And I know, HubSpot has evolved quite a bit. You've added so much in terms of like a CRM, you've got live chat functionality. There's several other additions you've built over the years. Do you feel like everything you're doing continues to be under the umbrella of inbound, or is there a point where inbound is what it is and now HubSpot's at a place where it needs to explore new categories?
I think inbound is the kind of the category that we operate in the marketing industry. In our business, we started deeply in the marketing technology business, and we've expanded from there. Now we have a really great set of products for salespeople and sales leaders, and a new set of products that are very good and getting better every day for customer service people. And just like inbound marketing is for marketing, you have other categories that exist in those markets. And we look at ourselves overall, we are in the business to help people help businesses create really remarkable customer experiences, and that's what we are here to do. And that's why, we think about inbound marketing, it's just about marketing. We think about HubSpot, it's about growing better. And if you're talking about, inbound marketing is how you grow better if you're thinking about doing marketing, right? It's one of those really helpful. It's earning attention and not stealing attention. It's better for you and better for your buyers. And we want to apply some of those same values to sales and customer service. But I don't think that the term inbound service is the kind of category that we're looking to create in that market.
Gotcha. So inbound marketing, while it was a catalyst for HubSpot going from day one to where you are now, it's a core part of the company, but you're saying that's not the company itself. It's actually something bigger than that. You talked about building great experiences between companies and the people they do business with.
Absolutely.
So I do want to ask you, as you expand that kind of that vision and some of these offerings for teams outside of sales, you're still continuing to kind of nurture and evangelize for inbound. And you've been that category leader for quite some time now. And so I'm curious, what have been some of the biggest challenges in maintaining ownership of that category?
I mean, I don't know if we're owners of that category. I don't know if anybody's an owner of any category. To be quite honest, I think what we look at is like how are we true to the message that and the story that we are telling about our business. And so for us, it's like, man, one, it's continuing to walk the walk. It's continuing to try to do great marketing ourselves and set an example for everyone. And two, it's how do we continue to evolve with the changing buyer and marketing landscape out there? And you mentioned like that's new tools, that's new methodologies, that's new education that we're doing, and that's fundamentally what we're trying to do. What we're trying to do is lead by example, and as we learn something and as we notice that the industry is changing, we want to help build software and education so that we can empower our customers and our community to take advantage of that change.
So, along with that, I'm kind of curious. You described a really strong mission for HubSpot. I'm not sure that I've heard it before or heard it talked about much, at least in my own interactions with the brand. Was that mission there early on, and is that what then guided inbound, or did that not come until a little bit later?
No, I think vision and mission are interesting things, right? And the vision was clear, but it's hard to have a mission in the early days when you're just figuring it out. You can have one and it'll evolve, but largely, I think for us, as we started to really grow and mature and figure out how we can really help our customers and our community, it became clear that our mission wasn't just to help people do inbound marketing better. Our mission is to we think we can help millions of people around the world grow better. And for us, grow better encompasses inbound marketing, but also again encompasses making the right choice, making the human choice, solving for the long term instead of just short term quick wins. And I think those things are really powerful.
So in a way, it sounds like as important as category is, it almost sounds like you're saying that mission and vision really are even stronger statements than category itself. Am I hearing you right on that one?
I don't know if it's stronger, but I think they're critical to being able to have clarity in your marketing strategy and in your marketing messaging. Sure.
So, Kipp, knowing what you know now and the journey you've been on at HubSpot, I think you said you're coming up on 9 years now. If you could go back and tell Kipp from 8-9 years ago what you know now, what would you tell yourself and what would you do differently?
Oh gosh, that would be a long conversation, John. I think so many things, but on the topic that I think we're talking about today, which is around category creation, I think it would have been like go even harder, faster. Like do more to evangelize inbound even than we did, because that type of common message and common goal with your community is so powerful. I think we did a lot, but I think looking back on it, there was still a lot more we could have done. And I think we would have leaned into that even more.
And would you have done that, you think, through, like, I don't know what your marketing budget looked like at that time, but would you be spending more? Would you allocate more of your time? Would you incorporate it more into your messaging? Like, what are some of the specific things that you would do?
More in my messaging. I think I would probably try to find a little bit better of a balance between like performance marketing and pushing the inbound marketing story. Probably would have come through in a lot of things. I probably, for a few years, we had an event called the HubSpot user group before it was inbound. And it's like, wow, we had to do it all over again. We would have never done that user group event, for example. It would have always been this inbound event that was, for more than just HubSpot customers. It was really for anybody who was passionate and interested in inbound and inbound marketing. And so, that's just one kind of specific example of, I think, something we would have changed.
Sure. I think to be fair to your past self, though, there's no guarantee that once you start evangelizing a term that it gets legs, right? So there could have been an alternate scenario where you guys tried to push inbound and maybe you liked the idea yourselves, but the industry just didn't grab onto that. And so I kind of understand that tension of balancing between performance marketing and I guess kind of the branding and evangelization side of marketing, especially early on, because like you said, it took you guys, 7 years to really get inbound into an industry term. And that's a pretty long time horizon. A lot of startups are not looking at 7 years, they're looking at 7 months or 7 weeks or less. So do you think that's an important lesson, though? Like category creation, whether you're really going to own a category or just put out a new term out in the industry, like it's kind of a risk in a way. And I think you have to be willing to put the time, put the money, and be consistent in that effort because that payoff isn't going to be there from day one.
I totally agree.
Well, Kipp, tons of valuable advice today for people learning about category. I wondered if I could ask you for one last piece of expertise from you. If one of our listeners is out there and they're thinking about pursuing category design, maybe they think they're in a space where that makes sense for them, what's one resource you'd recommend for someone to kind of dive deep into and learn a little bit more about the practice?
That's a really good question. I think it's something that there's not a ton. Like I don't have like a great go-to resource. I would look at different companies who have done it, and I would look at how they've told their stories and the insights they've drawn and what parts of those stories really resonated with their community. Because I think if you can do that across a handful of different companies, you can really start to see some of the common traits that really exemplify success and can give yourself a better chance of being successful when trying to create a category.
So I think you're right. It's a new, I was going to say category of marketing, but that sounded a little too meta. But it's a new discipline in marketing, and there's not a whole lot about it, at least not yet. So maybe a better question to ask would be, when you look out in this space and you look at other companies who have developed categories, what are 2 or 3 of your favorites? Who's doing it really well?
Oh man, that is a good question. Who is doing it really well? There are a lot of people these days disrupting categories more than they are forming categories, which I think. I mean, Salesforce is the classic example with creation of the cloud computing category, and really first people to really make the CRM category stick. They're obviously somebody who's just the gold standard of marketing and brand marketing, and they've done a great job. I'm trying to think of somebody, more further adrift in an industry. A brand that I'm really a fan of that's very, very different is there's a brand called Bevel, which is grooming products for the African American community, started by a gentleman named Tristan Walker, really brilliant entrepreneur. And he's created a category of products that just otherwise never existed. And it's a pretty interesting thing. He just sold the business to Procter & Gamble. Very interesting story. Definitely a story that people out there should go check out.
And that's Bevel, you said?
Yeah, Bevel.
Okay, I'll try to add that to the show notes. That kind of reminds me of Dollar Shave Club. They didn't invent the category of razors, of course, but they developed the category of subscription-based grooming product. And then I think they were later bought by Gillette, if I'm not mistaken.
Unilever, actually, I believe.
Oh, Unilever. Okay, very good. Cool. Well, Kipp, if one of our listeners wants to get in touch with you today and ask you a question about category, about HubSpot, about inbound, what's the best way for them to do that?
I have a weird name, so I'm easy to find really anywhere on the internet, but probably the easiest way is to just send me a note on LinkedIn.
Sounds good.
LinkedIn.com/in/Kipp Bodnar, and you'll find me very easily.
All right. Good deal, Kipp. It's been a real pleasure having you on the show. I was thrilled for the interview, and I'm Really excited about all the advice that you've shared with our listeners. I've learned a lot myself, and really appreciate your time. Thanks again.
Thanks, John. Thanks for everybody who listened. Appreciate it. It was fun.
All right. Take care.
You too.
Okay. Well, that wraps up another Category Creation episode of the B2B Growth Show. I'm John Rougeux, and if you have any thoughts you'd like to share about category creation, I would love to hear from you. Just type john.marketing in your browser. That's john.marketing, and you'll find all of my contact info there. Thanks for listening. We'll see you next time.
Digital marketing agencies have a tough job. You have to stay on top of the latest marketing strategies for your clients and your agency. What if there was a way you could address both at the same time? Imagine your agency putting out content with greater quality and quantity. Envision bringing your clients a turnkey solution for one of B2B marketing's fastest growing media strategies, podcasting. You know all those clients asking for your help with their account-based marketing efforts? Picture being the first to bring them the idea of content-based networking, showing them the proven strategy for breaking into their most coveted accounts. Here's the concept. Sweetfish Media is looking to work with a limited number of innovative agencies interested in a new partnership model. We produce a podcast for your agency. You introduce the power of podcasting and Sweetfish services to your clients. Everybody wins. Learn more at sweetfishpartners.com.